Let us begin with a question I have been asked more times than I can count. A question that contains within it centuries of theological debate, considerable family complexity, and occasionally some awkward conversations at Passover. Who qualifies? The law of return, passed by the Israeli Knesset in 1950 and amended in 1970, is the legal foundation for Aliyah. It gives every Jew the right to immigrate to Israel and become a citizen. Simple enough. Except that who is a Jew is, as you may be aware, if you have spent any time near Jewish community life, not always a simple question. Let us start with the straightforward cases. If you were born to a Jewish mother, you are Jewish under halakha, that is traditional Jewish law, and you qualify for Aliyah under the law of return. Full stop. No debate. If you converted to Judaism through a recognized conversion, and we will come back to what recognized means because it matters, you also qualify for Aliyah. You are Jewish. Welcome. Now let us talk about the 1970 amendment, because this is where things become interesting for a great many families, and also where I personally find it very beautiful. In 1970, the Israeli government expanded the law of return to include not just Jews themselves, but the children of Jews, the grandchildren of Jews, and the spouses of all of the above. Why? Because Israel understands history, because it understands that Jewish families are often mixed families, because it understands that in many cases, particularly following the Holocaust, but not only, Jewish identity was hidden, lost, or complicated across generations, because it wants to be a home not just for those who fit a precise religious definition, but for the broader family of the Jewish people. So, in practical terms, this means if your father is Jewish, but your mother is not, you are not Jewish under halakha, but you may well qualify for Aliyah under the law of return as the child of a Jewish person. If your grandfather on your mother's side was Jewish, but she was not raised Jewish, you may qualify as the grandchild of a Jewish person. If your spouse is Jewish and you are not, you may qualify as the spouse of a Jewish person. I want to be precise here because this matters. The grandparent clause extends one generation further than the child clause. Specifically, it covers someone who has a grandparent who was a Jew, or who is married to someone with a grandparent who was a Jew. That means if your grandmother was Jewish, you may qualify, even if your parent was not raised Jewish, even if you were not raised Jewish, even if this information is coming as something of a surprise. Now, two important exceptions to the law of return. First, if you are Jewish but you have voluntarily converted to another religion, the law of return does not apply to you. You have, in the legal language, converted out. This is a narrow exception. It does not apply if you were raised in another religion without your own choice in the matter, only if you, as an adult, made the deliberate choice to join another faith. If you are in this situation, it is worth speaking to the Jewish agency directly about your specific circumstances. Second, there are some circumstances under which the Minister of Interior can deny Aliyah. If someone presents a risk to public health, public security, or has a criminal record that may endanger public peace. These are rare and specific cases. For the vast majority of people, they are not relevant. Let us talk about conversion for a moment, because it deserves careful treatment. If you converted to Judaism, the Israeli government, specifically the Jewish agency, which makes the initial eligibility determination, will ask about your conversion. Not all conversions are treated equally. An Orthodox conversion performed by a recognized Orthodox rabbinical court is accepted without question. Conservative and Reform conversions are a more complicated topic. They have historically been the subject of significant debate within Israel's legal system, and the situation has evolved over the years. I will say plainly, if you converted under a non-Orthodox movement, the process may be more involved, and you should contact the Jewish agency or Nefesh B'Nefesh directly about your specific situation early in your planning process. This is not a reason not to proceed. It is a reason to get proper guidance from the beginning. Now, the practical question everyone wants answered. How do you prove all of this? You prove it with documents, obviously. This is the Aliyah process. Everything is documents. The core of your proof of eligibility is called, appropriately enough, proof of Judaism. For most applicants, this takes the form of a letter from a recognized rabbi affiliated with a recognized synagogue or rabbinical organization, stating that you are Jewish and explaining the basis on which they know this. We cover this in detail in episode 2.3, but the rabbi's letter is typically supported by underlying civil documents: your birth certificate, your parents' marriage certificate, your father's birth certificate, sometimes your grandparents' marriage certificate. The further back the Jewish connection, the more supporting documentation may be needed. I want to say something important here, which is this. Many people approach the eligibility question with anxiety. They worry that they will not be Jewish enough, that their family history is too complicated, that the connection is too distant. My experience, and the experience of the organizations that help people through this process, is that most people who have a genuine Jewish connection, whether direct or through a parent or grandparent, are able to establish their eligibility successfully with proper preparation and proper documentation. The Jewish Agency has seen everything. They have processed applications from people whose only Jewish connection was a grandmother they never met, from people who converted in unusual circumstances, from families where the Jewish lineage was hidden for generations. They want to help people make Aliyah. That is their entire purpose. They are not looking for reasons to disqualify you. They are looking for documentation that supports your eligibility. Get the documents, tell the truth, start early, and if your situation is complicated, speak to professionals. The Jewish Agency has counselors specifically trained for this. Nefesh B'Nefesh has advisors. There are lawyers who specialize in these questions. You belong here. Let us get the paperwork sorted.